Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Devin. On behalf of the YLYP co-chairs, so Devin, Saida, and myself, I want to welcome you all to our youth preparation series in the lead up to the Commission on the Status of Women in March, and just a few weeks away. This event is on digital innovation and education. So we have a really wonderful panel. We have a really nice agenda kind of prepared for everybody today. I guess just a few things to share before we get started is that this is one of a series of weekly events that the youth leaders and young professionals are putting together. The YLYPs are having this preparation series every Wednesday in the lead up to the commission. So keep an eye out for what's coming up. We are wanting to create space for young people during the CSW itself. So we'll be letting you know kind of closer to the date what's happening in terms of YLYP program, as well as spaces that UN Women and other youth coalitions will be creating during the commission. And we also, as always, want to kind of create a sense of community on this call. So please feel welcome to introduce yourself in the chat and reach out to each other. We're hoping that as we all start to engage in the commission, we are well informed, we're well equipped, we have the tools to be able to engage, but we also have a network of people who can support us in that engagement. So with that, I will hand to Devin to take us through a poll.
Thanks, Safira. So we just want to see who's in the room with us. So we're going to do a quick poll just to see who's new to the space. If you're new to CSW or the NGO CSW forum, and if you're new to the YLYP space specifically. So I'll let everyone input their answer. All right, looks like it's slowing down. Can everyone see the results? Yeah, okay. Cool, so majority of us on the call are new to both the CSW and the YLYPs. So welcome. It's a little bit more evenly split for the CSW space, but most 74% of participants on the call right now are new to the YLYPs. So welcome. And so our next section, I want to do a fun little interactive thing where we're going to do a word cloud of what word or phrase comes to mind when you think of digital innovation for gender equality. Sorry, hold on, let me share my screen again. Apologies. Okay. Okay, everyone can see this? Cool. So on the top of the screen here, you can see instructions to join, and actually I will share a QR code too, so you can use that. That might be a little bit easier actually. So if you want to scan this QR code to go to the Mentimeter and input a word or phrase that comes to mind when you think of digital innovation for gender equality. So I'll wait a minute or two for everyone to access that website. And just let us know in the chat if you're having any issues. And if you can't get onto Mentimeter for whatever reason, also feel free to put your answer in the chat as well. Okay, so I'll share our results again. All right. Getting lots of input. I see education, accessibility, amplifying voices, compassion, women in STEM, communication, the future, networking, equal access, progress, power, safe spaces, friendship, opportunities, wisdom, knowledge, money, time, creativity, change, collaboration. Awesome. Yeah, and I think every single one of these are for sure relevant. It is such a kind of a broad topic that encapsulates a lot of other things. So I feel like there's really no wrong answer. Transparency, online activism. Amazing. So we will also feel free to also add to that, later if you come up with more stuff, and we will share that with the recording and follow up so everyone can see that as well. Awesome. Yeah, I see in the chat accessibility, inclusivity, love that education emerged. Yeah, absolutely. So I will now pass it to one of our amazing interns, Michaela, who's going to facilitate the panel aspect of our program today. So Michaela, over to you.
Hello, as Devin said, my name's Michaela. I'm one of the advocacy and research interns at NGO CSW. And I just want to do a little introduction for each of our wonderful speakers and also thank them so much for their time today. They're all very busy people, I'm sure. One of our speakers is Anielka Medina, who is the founder of Chava. Chava is the first app for sexual and reproductive health education in Latin America, where up to 70% of students receive no formal sex education. Chava provides access to education and care in a private and accessible manner for young women in Mexico and Nicaragua. We also have Pashtana Durrani, who is the founder of Learn Afghanistan. Pashtana is a lifelong human rights activist and community development expert, focusing on the right of women and girls to education. In 2018, she founded Learn Afghanistan, which is a nonprofit that works to expand educational opportunities with a focus on digital literacy. Through Learn, Pashtana has helped educate over 7,000 students in Afghanistan and trained more than 80 teachers in digital literacy. And last but not least, we have Jada Baiser. Jada is a digital communications consultant at UN Girls Education Initiative. She has 10 years of experience in supporting projects that work towards social goals. Jada has worked with a wide variety of organizations in Europe and Southeast Asia to support projects based in promoting gender equality and women's empowerment. So I wanted to open up the conversation by saying again, thank you guys so much for your time, and allowing each of our speakers to have a little bit of time to themselves to allow them to say their piece. Jada, I know you have some slides. Did you want to present those first?
Sure. They're kind of during my presentation speaking. I've got a little digital thing.
Yes, go ahead.
So yeah, I want to start off by thanking you all very much for inviting me here today, and just to say it's a real honor to be amongst community and to be amongst trailblazing women leaders like Pashtana and Anielka as well. So I'm here on behalf of the United Nations Girls Education Initiative, UNGAI, and we're an intergenerational partnership that works to progress gender equality in and through education. We're composed of over 50 civil society organizations, young feminist networks, governments, academic institutions and UN agencies. And I'm the lead of digital communications for the Secretariat, which means I'm often behind the scenes. So it's quite nice today to be out front and with you all. So yeah, I would like to share more on the work that we do at Ungai and amplify the stories and experiences of young feminists that we partner with around the theme of digital innovation and education. So the theme of CSW 67 is really critical to our present realities and the current challenges that we're facing. Innovation and technology is a powerful tool to progress gender equality in and through education. It strengthens feminist movements, ignites change, and supports global solidarity and interconnectedness. But at the same time, we need to recognize and address the gender digital divide and gender-based violence that occurs in this digital world. So as the digital lead at Ungai, my role it's pretty varied, and I've had the pleasure of collaborating with the dynamic team at the Secretariat. I also find huge reach through working with Ungai's partners. But I can really say I'm so inspired by the work of young feminists that we collaborate with. My role has been, producing materials for multiple advocacy campaigns and coming up with digital strategies so we can reach audiences all over the world. And also to support efforts and build awareness and share information on intersecting topics around gender equality and education. So through social media, we've been able to stay connected with partners and communities to bring issues to the spotlight, such as school-related gender-based violence, menstrual hygiene management, comprehensive sexuality education, intergenerational partnerships, and young feminist leadership, breaking down gender stereotypes, and gender transformative education, just to name a few. We try and engage our own community and also build awareness through messaging, graphics, infographics, videos, animation, like you can see going on behind me. And we're really open to collaboration and opportunities where we can lend our platform to young feminists and activists, because that's essential to our work in ensuring that their voices are being amplified. And a large component of my work is around hosting brave and inclusive digital spaces online for people to connect and to organize. So we quite often using Zoom, for example, and that was even pre-pandemic. We would use digital spaces for meetings and to connect with others. But of course, during COVID, that became like the only way for connecting, like most of us. So it meant a shift that we could really connect with people from everywhere. I mean, of course, if they had access to stable internet, right? So ensuring we could provide stipends for internet connectivity also became an essential part of our work. Now, when things are slowly moving back into in-person meetings and gatherings, we're still making space for people to join online and be in the room. So we're exploring new innovations. And I want to share a few examples today to share like what we're doing in the digital space to mobilize and progress our collective feminist education, advocacy, and overall mission of gender equality in and through education. To share an example here, in June 2021, we supported the world's largest digital youth-led power shift. And this was a gathering of more than 1,000 young activists that were demanding that G7 leaders shift power and resources for girls' education and leadership. During the pandemic, we were also hearing from young feminists working within education and gender equality that there was a need for brave and honest spaces to connect and learn from one another. So in partnership with Gender at Work, we piloted the first edition of Feminist School with 26 young feminists from around the world connecting from rural and urban areas via Zoom. And just to let you know, Feminist School is an action and peer-based learning program focused on leadership skills, building along with experiential learning and gender justice and education. And the Feminist School training includes key elements of exploring feminist principles, feminist communications and advocacy, self and collective care, understanding conflict and power dynamics that can be readily adapted to a variety of stakeholders working to advance gender equality in and through education. Now we're working on the second edition for education CSOs and are looking to grow Feminist School as a digital and innovative approach that progresses gender equality and feminist leadership. Last year, we convened 31 civil society organizations and young feminist activists working in gender and education. They all came to New York, or as many as we could get here. All of our outreach was done online. We were sharing about the campaign, arranging all the interviews, interviewing, meeting with people online to interview if they wanted to be a part of the coalition. And then when it actually came to the convening in New York, to be as inclusive as possible, we were ensuring there was a digital or a virtual space for people to join online and to be in the room, to be able to participate in the conversation. So you can see there's one of our participants speaking to the audience, but also our Zoom participants were able to hear and interact as well. So these are some examples of our work to show the importance of access for young people to digital spaces and spaces they can be active in and feel safe and heard. But beyond our work, we know how important technology and access is to young people that we work with. So, for example, during the height of COVID, a pandemic that further exacerbated gender inequalities, especially GBV, we were hearing how youth-led activism and work continue to engage with communities by leveraging tech wherever possible. Sodfa, who was the previous co-chairperson of the Africa Youth Movement, shared that they were partnering with radio stations to deliver classes and health information and delivering ICT courses online to empower girls to step into the ever-growing digital space. And we also heard from our partners, Transform Education. They are a young feminist coalition that we support. They were saying many youth-led networks were using social media apps like WhatsApp to ensure that information regarding mental health, virus prevention, barriers to education were reaching all children, especially girls and queer children who were out of school. So they were also partnering with local authorities and health workers and NGOs to use online platforms to collect information on teenage pregnancy, early and forced marriage, and monitor incidents of sexual and gender-based violence. So for youth who have access to mobile phones and the internet, social media, it's a powerful tool through which girls and marginalized genders can connect, learn, and raise awareness. But we also know that there are disparities online for young people's access, and of course, a very gendered dimension to that, where often girls, young women, and marginalized genders in particular don't have access to, or they're denied using technology due to their gender. We're also really aware of the high rates of violence that girls, young women, and LGBTQ+ children and youth face online. For example, during COVID was a time that girls who didn't have access to technology were left further behind and weren't able to continue their education. But in some cases where organizations were offering devices and access to technology in their outreach, it gave some girls the ability to access education where they normally wouldn't have had the opportunity. So we understand the power of technology and the reach it can have, but we also know that too many girls aren't acquiring the skills in STEM in order to contribute to the direction of technology and innovation globally. I mean, UN Women, they're reporting that 30% of tech professionals worldwide are women, and this won't increase if girls and young women are not able to access the internet or feel safe to do so. So to address the root causes, we need a gender transformative approach to education and increasing opportunities for girls to develop digital skills and build their confidence and aspirations to pursue careers in STEM or as STEM professionals. And I want to finish by saying that it's really important that there are safe and supportive ways that are available to young people to engage in a digital space. But it's important for organizations like UNGAI, other UN agencies, governments, CSOs, public and private sectors, to support and work with young people as technology continues to develop and create sustainable solutions that close the gender digital divide. So yeah, I just want to finish there and just say that UNGAI really looks forward to collaborating with you all and to progressing gender equality in and through education using digital innovation. We have our contact details here. Yeah, please stay in touch with us. You can find us online or contact us directly. We welcome it. Thank you again for having me here today.
Thank you so much. That was so wonderful and so informative. I'm really excited to talk more about your work. Before we get into questions from attendees, I want to make sure that Anielka and Pashtana get to introduce themselves. Anielka, could you give us a little more information about yourself and your projects?
Yes, and I want to share my screen too. So, okay, perfect. So thank you for this opportunity. I'm very excited to be here and it's inspiring that listening all this history. So my name is Anielka Medina. I am from Nicaragua, and I wanna explain a little bit about me. So in 2015, I was working with my partner and we started one organization with the name is the Lily Project. And the Lily Project was focused in prevent cervical cancer in Nicaragua because we have the highest rate to the death. So my personal history with this the Lily Project was my mom passed away for cervical cancer when I was young. So all this process for me was like the click in my mind. I was very focused all my life, learning about different history for these women, that there are needs, that there are wants, because I was feeling that that's problem that my mom has have the big consequence in my life and my family too. So the Lily Project was working very well in Nicaragua. In 2018, we have the social political situation. So the government take the control from the whole country. And now we have the dictatorship in this country. And the government take, they are shutting down different organizations because there are say that the NGO was supporting that this group that was fighting for the social security. So in working for 7 years in Nicaragua with the Lily Project, we was very focused to in sexual and reproductive health in different community. We was doing education and provide cervical cancer tests. We examining more than 23,000 women and provide treatment with cryotherapy. That cryotherapy is this is one treatment when one woman has the problem with the HPV. So in 2022, so with all this problem with COVID, the government not accepting that the COVID was the big problem around the world. So there are say that in Nicaragua we are safe, and he pushing every organization to continue work in the community. This board member from the Lily Project deciding to close the Lily Project. So all my data is from Nicaragua. Like I said, I was working so many years recollecting the data, listening about so many history from these women from the community. So, and there are the big problems in the pregnancy that so many abuse in the community is because we don't have access to the sexual and reproductive health in Latin America. It's not just in Nicaragua. And we was very focused to start the solution, because the Lily Project was working the target for 25 years, but now we have the new generation and we want to make the change in how we want to work in this world. So we review all the data and say 17% from all these young women, we don't have the access to the sexual health education. And for example, in my home, nobody talking about the sexual health education. In the school, we received just the regular, like, so how is the puberty, for example, but we don't know nothing that what gonna happen with us, because we growing up with so many taboos. For example, we can asking something about sex because it's the topic that nobody wants to talk. So the privacy, that is the biggest problem in Latin America, that we don't have the access to the good information. I know the technology now is like the biggest place that we need to find information about the sexual health education, but in the end, that information is not available for the people with the low education. So, and the people with the low education and more poor, they have the more problem because the highest pregnancy is growing up. So for the prediction right now for 2013, that Latin America and the Caribbean, they are gonna have the highest rate for pregnancy. And we can see right now, because all countries from Latin America, we have the problem right now with its government, immigration, and abuse. So okay, we have this vision that in the world, everybody is free to take the control about her body. So I want to share one video and we can enjoy how is Chava doing this part. So I want to share this. Okay. Okay.
First, we'll sexual and reproductive health education that provides access to information, tools, and care in a comprehensive, personalized, and confidential manner for anyone who identifies as or has had experiences as a Latin American woman or girl. Founded and led by women, our Chava team develops digital solutions that enable all young Latinas to become informed and confident advocates for their own sexuality, health, pleasure, education, and power to transform the state of sexual and reproductive health in Latin America. We have seen women transformed as they learn to love and protect their bodies. What you will see today is our minimum viable product with enough features to attract early adopters and validate our idea. Dozens of young Latinas who shared their personal needs and experiences were part of the Chava development process, along with health and education experts. This demo mimics the journey of registered Chava users. Protected access and privacy are essential features for our users, so Chava has a password-protected registration and login. In addition, our data usage practices reflect GDPR regulations. During the sign-up process, users provide some basic demographic data and indicate topics of interest, which helps create their health plan and a personalized experience. From our homepage, users can access all that Chava has to offer: educational content, community, care, a personal toolkit, and a dashboard that helps manage the experience and update topics of interest. Let's start with the educational modules. This screen shows users' health plans based on their interests, where they will have access to modules with a series of subcategories and a diversity of content. The Chavas emphasize that they prefer to consume short, easy-to-understand video content that keeps their attention and does not take a lot of data. We will show a video on menstrual health, a favorite topic. De cuidado durante la menstruación. Seguimiento de tu ciclo. No podrás saber cómo son tus días antes de tu menstruación, a menos que lleves un calendario. Esto te ayudará a que te familiarices con tus síntomas y sepas si tus síntomas son ligeros. Hay cosas simples que puedes hacer para aliviar. Si son moderados o severos, te dará la oportunidad de pensar en buscar ayuda profesional. Te invitamos a que registres tu ciclo con Chava para que lleves un seguimiento adecuado. Now we will show you a feature our users love, our digital community. It's a space where they can ask anonymous questions they wouldn't feel comfortable asking elsewhere and receive support from each other. To avoid misinformation and ensure it is a safe and reliable space, our health professionals will manage this forum and provide answers. Our toolbox currently has 3 functions: a calendar to monitor and schedule contraceptive methods, a personal diary, and a menstrual cycle log. The cycle log is for educational purposes only to help a person learn about and understand the changes that occur in their body at each phase of the menstrual cycle. Our WhatsApp channel is another unique feature of Chava. Staffed by health professionals, it serves to provide individual consultations and referrals. Thanks to our application's custom backend administrative layer that helps us manage the end-to-end experience. For example, we have the ability to easily add, change, and delete content. Our vision is to lead as educators in the space through unique, consistent, meaningful, and quality content through partnerships with industry players and innovators. We hope this brief summary makes you want to learn more about Chava and join us in our mission. We are looking for partners to help build Chava into a truly transformative environment for millions of young women in Latin America. Please feel free to contact us directly. Thank you for your time and consideration.
So I'm continuing sharing my screen. And this is our target right now. And we want to be focused in the rural community because it's where they have the biggest problems. So in October 2022, we launched this MRP in Nicaragua. In Mexico, it's available just for the focus group because we are recollecting now just the feedback. And so we start right now to the MRP. We have the new UX for work and the new version, and we want to launch in Mexico. And in 2025, we want to launch Chava in Central America. That is donde we want to be very focused right now. This is our team. we are for the different country because we want to conserve all this culture that we have in Latin America, because we know and we believe that there are one app that is available for everybody, because we want to Chava is free. Maybe we can change so many lives, or maybe one life, but it's gonna be very satisfactory for us to see that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anielka. That was so great. I'm really looking forward to opening up a conversation about your work. So now we have Pashtana Durrani, who is the founder of Learn Afghanistan. Pashtana, could you give us a little more information about yourself and your projects?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, Jada. Nice seeing you. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me and making the time of coming here. It's definitely amazing to be here. For me, I think I'll start with my own introduction. My name is Pashtana Durrani. I am the executive director for Learn Afghanistan, which is an organization dedicated to digital literacy in Afghanistan. We focus mainly on educating girls through digital tools that not only are limited to internet, but also offline apps, radio channels, anything and everything that could serve as a means of communication and learning. Right now, as most of you might know who follow news, that Afghanistan is one of the countries where girls cannot access schooling or universities post grade 7. So given the situation and given the change in the political situation, Learn had to innovate. Back in the day, Learn was founded because I myself come from a very rural and tribal region in Afghanistan, and we don't have access to the same amenities or accessibilities like the city people would do, or the urban centers would do, where you could access electricity. Even if it was not like 24/7, we still had some hours of electricity in Afghanistan when it came to the cities, or accessing internet and on cell phones via SIM cards and stuff like that. My district still doesn't have electricity, and the internet, which is like comes through the phones. The phone networks go down at 6 p.m. in the evening, and that's it. And then they come out again the next day at 9 a.m. And they're not allowed to be in working in the middle of the night or anything. So in case you have a medical emergency, if you have any classes that you need to take in the evening, you cannot. There is no communication with the outer world. Now, the reason we started Learn was for this one basic reason: ensuring that we don't only have access to all those opportunities, all those educational tools, but also have communications, also have that space for mobilization and socialization, especially for the girls aged 13 to 18. Today, Afghanistan is a different situation. Afghanistan is not the Afghanistan that I used to work with. I used to work with 18 schools in public sector that we worked with girls that were from tribal regions, girls who came from all the different zones, who couldn't get into a class because they have never been to a class, because they didn't know how to learn and they didn't know how the normal school functioned. I remember working with students who would tell me that they cannot take an exam under 45 minutes. They had never had that sort of pressure, but all of these were self-starters, people who took initiative, people who learned. Now, fast forward to 2021, August 15, we were, of course, working with 18 public schools. We were providing trainings to 1,000 teachers. We were ensuring that we provide video content to kids who didn't have teachers in those bio, physics, chemistry periods. We ensured that schools that lacked labs or laboratories to perform experiments, we were giving them content that could actually help them understand the figures or the experiments in their books. We're also trying to train students in how to write a cover letter, how to make a CV, how to communicate with someone, how to make a Gmail, simple stuff like that, because most of the girls in Afghanistan don't have the permission to use internet or laptop. So we would provide that space too. Now, post-August 2021, we had to innovate because all the public schools were closed. We lost more than 6,900 students, and we started with our own secret schooling. Since then, we have grown. We have been to other provinces. We have now more than 400 students enrolled in our programs, and all of them get access to education from grade 7 to 12, and we certify them all. We're already partnered up with a charter school in the US, so they give us the certification that is needed for the girl to move to the next grade, or in UN language, it's called the learning passport. So you can actually go to other countries to continue your education, and you won't be again and again persecuted for learning but not having the certificate for it. So that's one way of that what we are doing right now. At the same time, we provide physical spaces with internet, laptops, anything that a girl would need to ensure that she continues to learn. We provide stipends for the girls aged 13 to 18 to have access to all those requirements or needs that they might have. The second layer that we have been working on since then is developing all our curriculum into auditory lessons. We did have video lessons, but we never had auditory lessons. And the fun thing about Afghanistan is we do like to have a lot of things as haram, but radio is halal. So you can actually have a radio in all your houses, and radio is something that is accessible in areas even where the cell phone networks go down. So what we did was we partnered up with the national radio in Afghanistan, and we provide lessons in both of our native languages, and we provide lessons from grade 7 to 12, and we provide lessons in history, geography, biophysics, chem, and mathematics. And since then, this is the second time that we are repeating our lessons, and it's called the Education Hour. Now we are transitioning more towards a 30 minutes lesson program rather than 1 hour program that has all the different multiple content. We're going towards one subject being 30 minutes, and we're prolonging our educational hours on that radio channel. Last but not the least, we have been working with SIM card companies to provide 0-meter data, where you can, if you have a SIM card of that company, you can actually go, and without having internet, you can still access all the video lessons from Learn and just continue learning at your own pace, but you won't need internet for it. So it's sort of like a 0-meter or an offline site that you could just visit. And that's what is something that we have been working for the past 1 year. So all in all, Afghanistan is a challenging space. We do have physical presence. We do teach girls physically, and I do believe there is nothing that could replace in-person learning, especially for girls in Global South, where if she is the eldest one, she is a mother. She is doing house chores, so she is actually the cleaner of the house. She is the manager because she has to look after everyone in her house. And she is sometimes even a breadwinner, because most of them don't even have a breadwinner in their family, and their mothers are supposed to stay behind. So for me, it's very important to have a space where girls can feel like girls at that age, where they're 13, 14, 15, and can just come and color and talk and paint their nails and watch something on computer or talk about stuff that they might like. For some people, like, bigger organizations, it's very hard for me to explain at times that why do I need to do this? Because when she goes home, her school, her education is the last priority. The first priority is to feed the boy. The first priority is to have the boy access everything. And the worst part of all this is that the big digital gap that we have, girls are not allowed to have any laptops to take back home. Sometimes they're not even allowed to have an identity on the internet. So most of the girls we work with, they don't even have Facebooks or Instagrams with their own names. Sometimes they come up with random names like Angel or like, Princess or something, because they are not allowed to own their own identity. So we try to challenge that. We try to focus to not only educate girls, provide access to those opportunities, but also ensure that they have that right to be, the right to own themselves and their identity. And I think that's one of the Learn's mission that we have been working towards.
Thank you so much. That was so lovely to hear and discuss. Thank you all for your presentations. We really appreciate your work and taking the time out of your day to be here. I'm sure everyone is really excited to start asking questions, so please start putting them in the chat. I'm going to kick it off by asking some questions of my own, if that's okay with everybody. Anielka, my first question is for you. In your presentation, you talked a little bit about how Chava really places an emphasis on privacy and a personalized experience. And I'm wondering if you could talk about why those two factors are so important for digital sexual education.
Yeah, it's because when somebody wants to learning about her sexuality, they are want to be private. Because I want to share something or asking, and I don't want to other persons so because in my country there are so many girls that are sharing her phone with her family. So that is very important for us because the data that we have, like 5 that of 10 that are sharing the phone with somebody in this family. So this is important for us.
Yes, that definitely makes a lot of sense. The kind of like user experience and also just privacy on the internet is difficult in general. Pashtana, I also have a question for you. Learn Afghanistan really emphasizes the importance of digital literacy, and you were talking about autonomy and online identity. I was wondering if there was a moment that made you decide to make that a priority in Learn's programming, or how you came to focusing on STEM and digital literacy.
I mean, for me, I am a believer of like, as a person, like, people, when they meet me, they think like I'm a very pragmatic person, but I'm also like a big time romantic when it comes to learning. I like to call myself that because I am hopelessly optimistic about stuff. And I believe that one thing that we have clearly taken back that opportunity is making science a boys' club because, oh, it's serious. It's only for boys, so they can talk about it. And it's fun for them because they don't have anything to do. I mean, like, I don't want to generalize it, but if I have to compare it, they don't have normally the same amount of stuff to do before they can get to the fun part like girls do. So for me, I think the fun way was like when the boys in Kandahar would go out to these camps in Pakistan or India, science camps, because they were allowed to do so in summer, because they were allowed to travel, because they were allowed to go to those trips, and because they were allowed to have that fun time. The girls were not allowed to go alone, have a passport, talk to men in other countries, in a foreign country, and be without someone, So for me, okay, I was like, I cannot go and fight the whole world and just take them out and have the same summer camps. But what could we innovate? What could we make? And I think taking up that space was important for me. So that's where I think I like to talk about this again and again. I have failed my own maths like in grade 10, 36 times. 36 times I failed my own exams and tests, and because I had so much anxiety, because everyone told me, oh, boys are good at maths, girls are just good at like English and stuff. And it just hit me. It kept on, like I was an academically gifted student. So for me, I wanted to take up that space when I was in that situation, when I could make a decision. And I did. And the fun part is, today we have more website developers, we have more people who work in the IT industry who are girls, who identify as women and young girls, and they have been working with us. And the fun thing is that Afghanistan is becoming this internet industry that will be part of the next 10 years, when the next 10 years follow up on, oh, we have now platforms, we have metaverse, we have this, we have that. Afghanistan will be part of that. So for me, I think it was a personal decision, but it also is very helpful to see that women are taking leadership, even if things look bleak, even if things are not good. Women are taking up their space and making their own space, honestly.
Yeah, I like that you bring up the idea of like joy and community, because I definitely think that that's something missing for a lot of people, particularly online, and can be so difficult to navigate that with the kind of confidence we instill in our young women and girls. I definitely think that finding that community is super important, and it can be so easy to find your community online and so joyful. That actually bridges really well with my next question for Jada. You've worked for such a wide variety of projects. You've had so many partners, I'm sure. I'm sure your community and network is super large. There's a really well documented gender gap in both pay and representation in the digital field. So I know you touched on this in your presentation a little bit. I'm wondering if you have any ideas how employers and organizations can best support women in the digital field, and how women can support each other in this field.
Yes, and I can definitely say transparency is a big one. And, you know, just speaking from my own experience, and after maybe 15 years of working as a professional, it's only been very recent that I had the experience of having, let's say, people who are bosses or supervisors be very transparent with me about pay and how I can advocate for myself. And this was a really big aha moment, because I don't think I had even considered it myself that that people would be so transparent about such things. It's always been so kind of closed. No one really talks about their pay, but we still talk about, oh, there's all these gaps, and we know that women aren't being paid enough, and or not being paid as much as their male counterparts. So yeah, I really feel like transparency is absolutely key. And then I've also taken that practice on myself to be transparent with others about, you know, what they should be paid and what information I have, and, you know, sometimes getting into like the very personal and nitty-gritty, which is a little bit uncomfortable, and for different cultures as well. It kind of depends a little bit, but yeah, I can say through my personal experience, doing research to find out what male counterparts are getting paid, and then yeah, taking that to supervisors, to bosses, finding out if they're willing to have those conversations, and trying to be as transparent and open as possible. Feels like one very good step forward in yeah, being able to equalize somewhat.
Yeah, I definitely agree that there's kind of like an encouraged silence around those sort of things. So I definitely see how transparency could be really helpful to women and girls in the field. I'd love to open up the questions to people in the chat, or if any attendees have any questions. It looks like we have one from Margaret. Margaret says that this question is for everybody. In areas where internet poses a challenge, can digital videos or traditional recorded tape be used in a community setting where only one computer is needed? I think maybe we can share a little bit about like logistical, like how we might set up digital education in areas that are maybe less equipped with internet resources, or just general audio visual equipment. Pashtan, I'm sure you have a experience in setting up.
Yeah, I was trying to find the hand to like raise it. But I think honestly, it doesn't have to be a screen. It's like the one thing that we have all assumed with the past 10 years is that it has to be a screen for us to imagine it as a digital learning. It doesn't have to be, honestly. the one thing I actually have learned is that you could use any tool at your disposal. That is a very smart way to do, like, you know, the traditional tapes that we used to have back in the day with the films. If you think that you could produce them, if that's easier and doesn't take up a lot of space. In our region, we cannot have them because they're also banned. So you cannot carry them physically to the students. It has to be something in a phone, and the phone has to be like sewn into your dress or something like that. So even if you're checked, it's not discovered. So if you can do that, and the internet is a big issue, yes, go for it. Partner up with local radios. You don't have to go national. You can just go local, you know. The best way would be to focus on the forms of learning that you want to teach through. One thing we tend to forget is reading and writing is not the only way to learn. That's not literacy. That's form of literacy. Literacy could be through visual aid, this could be through audio, and this could be in many other forms, whatever works for you. So I think the best way would be to think about what sort of learning you want to introduce into your own peers or students that you want to focus on. Do you want to bring in all learning materials? Do you want to focus on the 4 basic ones: reading, writing, audio, and visual? So all those are the questions that you need to ask on your own. But at the same time, if you have an opportunity to do anything, go crazy. Do all the sort of tapes that you want to take. If you have any WhatsApp audio lessons that you could turn into audio WhatsApp voice notes, send them. If that works, why not? But it has to be a learning process. Sometimes we still have to understand that the restraint and the constraints are, you cannot certify on those things. So they still have to sit on a proctored exam and pass those to have that certificate. But I think in my own experience, you could learn through all sort of materials: video, audio, visual, tapes, radios, online, offline, whatever works. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful advice. I see that there's some questions in the chat, but also please feel free to raise your hand and you can ask them live as well if you would prefer. If anybody wants to raise their hand to ask verbally instead of Paula, please go ahead. Paula, if you're there. Oop, I think you're on mute, Paula.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
I was just asking if there is a tool that can be used to maybe involve the informal sector on the digital education and maybe in the innovation part of it, like to see that no one is left behind, because I understand this is a gradual process. You cannot maybe be able to reach everywhere. In my community, as their leader, the leader in my community, I'm the only one out of 60 girls. I'm the only one with a smartphone who can access the smartphone. And most of the times, in case I'm not in the community and then they are doing some community dialogues that we are having, maybe a work whereby we have to share the work that we are doing in the community. If I'm not around, there is no evidence that we did maybe a dialogue whereby we have to report. So it is quite a challenge. And out of them, I realized we're having a challenge because most of teenage pregnancy during COVID, school dropouts, and most of them just in a rural area, nothing that is being given in the public schools or girls in urban. Most of them, they are even just teachers don't show up. Maybe those computers, they are there in the school, but they're just there for maybe purposes in case the government comes to monitor and do evaluation. They're just there, but they're not accessible. They're not allowed to maybe touch the computers. And at the end of the day, they are being given international examination that have this whereby they do the theory part, but they cannot access the practical part of it. Like I'm also just learning how to use my phone. Like it's something that girls and young women have not been exposed the way boys have been exposed. You find like a problem, a technical problem, 9-year-old boy can solve maybe a problem, but a 16-year-old girl cannot even manage how to handle phone. So like maybe if there's some tool that can be used to
Paula, I think you're
involve the
breaking up
people
a
in
bit.
the rural areas or the informal sector that can cause them the budgets. That's like, thank you. Did you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Paula. I'm sure any of our speakers would love to talk about the issue of access. So please feel free to jump in, guys.
I had my hand up, so if you guys don't mind, I'm going to lower it. But one thing I think Paula worked, signal toward was very smart, is the fact that, yes, a lot of communities don't have smartphones. Smartphones are very hard and very expensive to have access to. And even if you have a smartphone, if you don't have internet in it, it's basically a box. You cannot do a lot with that. So what can be done? I think you could bring in the private and informal sector, especially young activists, by ensuring that you have access to that digital waste. I'm not talking about digital tools, but digital waste. One thing we have learned is the world is becoming again, a dump for digital waste. What could be done is that there are companies like Eco ATM or companies that refurbish all old materials, digital tools, phones, laptops, and then repurpose them or donates them to communities in the global south or in countries with lower economic income. So the reason I am suggesting these sites, even if you don't have it in your country, if you start it, people are going to come and support it. So if you don't have an Eco ATM or like a refurbishing company that could donate back to your communities, maybe start one program, maybe affiliate yourself with the bigger ones, the organizations. Their only focus is on refurbishing all the old material. That way you don't have to pay for it. The second good part about all of that is that you are actually saving the planet. And the third good part about that is that it could be used for the next 5 years. We use most of our own materials that you will see in pictures at Learn's website. All of our tools like phones, cell phones, laptops, tablets are all refurbished through Eco ATM in New York, and then they ship it back to Afghanistan. And it works perfectly fine for us. So I think even if the sector is not open, maybe try to reach out to those sectors in other countries that are near your country, and they could start helping you and think to innovate in your own region in the same way. I think that would help us in the next 5 years with the digital waste, but also with accessing those things that you cannot touch. Like you said, in your schools, you're not allowed. That's the same in Afghanistan, but at least there is a way to counter that. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure the issue of access comes up a lot for all of us. Anielka, I'm sure it really comes up a lot with having a digital app. I'm wondering if you can speak to that issue at all.
Yeah, in Latin America and Nicaragua have the smartphone. It's not now the luxus, now it's like there are needs. Yeah, because it's for us, and I am talking from the community too, it's like the window for how it's changed this world, that smartphone or the internet, because we are living in this rural area and every day is the same. So when that young girls have the access, that are opened the world. So in this particular area is growing up so fast, Latin America. I think we are the second highest to buy to a smartphone. And Nicaragua is using more than the 80% have a smartphone with the data, because we have the cheap plan that give us 1 week using WhatsApp. So that is the one reason that Chava app have the available to connecting with WhatsApp, because they are asking something via WhatsApp.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have any other questions, any other raised hands here? If not, I will definitely read one from the chat. But if anybody would like to ask their question live, please feel free. Okay, so in the chat, Bonse said, in a computer engineering class of over 250, we girls are barely 20 in number. How does one stay encouraged when even the lecturers feel that we are academically weaker? Speakers, please feel free to jump in. Jaden, yeah.
Thank you. And thank you, Bonse, for the question. I read your question and felt, yeah, I related very personally to that, because in preparing for this, I was even thinking, I studied web programming some years ago, and in a class of 30, there were only 2 of us were women. So yeah, I can definitely relate to that feeling of you're, yeah, surrounded by male classmates that get a lot more attention and are expected to succeed. So it can, yeah, feel very daunting, for sure. And I think now we see so many great organizations that are often youth-led. One that comes to mind is Girls Who Code. If I could suggest, perhaps if you have access to social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, to reach out to some of these organizations, to connect with them. And if you can, I'll put my email in the chat, and if you'd like to email me, I can share any others that can come to mind. But yeah, trying to find a community, and absolutely know that, you know, you as young girls, as women, are in exactly the place you need to be, because there is such a need for you to be continuing your studies, especially in this area, and of course if you're passionate about it. So yeah, I'll put my name there, but I encourage to, you know, reach out to other communities of women and girls who are working in this area for support and community encouragement, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that calls back kind of to what Pashchana was saying about finding community and like that online autonomy, and just being able to encourage each other and having that like joyous space online. So yeah, do we have any other questions, participants? If not, I believe we have one more question in the chat that hasn't been answered, but if anybody would like to raise their hand and ask live, please feel welcome to. Okay, so in the chat.
Hello.
Hi. Go ahead.
How are you?
Ruby. Thank you.
My name is Rufus Bruce Moore, and my daughter will be participating in the conference. And my daughter calls me, I am a feminist. I believe in girls' rights and in girls' empowerment. And my daughter had her first class in coding at 6, and she can write some code, and she does some girls' empowerment. But I guess my question is, and actually my question is, as a father, I'm working on finding the balance between coaching and encouraging my child to stay empowered and to feel that there is nothing that she cannot do as long as she's willing to work to achieve her dreams. From you ladies, women, what do you think from your point of view as a father, could a father do to help to coach and empower his daughter? Related to tech and IT.
Feel free to jump in, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I want to explain a little bit how it's working the culture. And I am talking from Latin America. So it's like a 50% that is all these women that are single mother. Yeah, that is very hard, and it's amazing when one father is involved in the life from for her daughter. You know, we have the we have the machista culture. So all the time, the parent is very focused in their son. So, and in my experience, for example, we are 7 brothers and sisters, 4 brothers and 3 sisters. So my mom was single mother, and she was very focused in my brothers. And for my side, she told me one day, like, Annie, I want, you need to go to the university because you don't need to depend from one guy. But in the other side, she was teaching from my brothers that there are need to find some woman from take him. So there are the big difference. When one father is focused on her daughter, maybe there are gonna be the big change in her life and her family. But when one father don't take this responsibility, that nothing is gonna change. So it's my perspective, and I'm so happy to hear how you supporting your daughter because it's amazing. But no, almost the father is not available to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Paula, I see you have another question.
No, it's not a question. It's
Paula, you're a bit breaking up a bit.
Answer to a dad who would want to see.
Paula, I think you're breaking up a bit. Do you want to type your question in the chat?
Still empowered. Like, I believe all
Paula, I think your connection is a little off. Do you want to type your question in the chat so we can see?
Can you hear me now?
I think your connection's not. Do you want to type it in the chat so we can read it out? Because I don't think your audio is working correctly. Okay, well, let me check the chat. Natasha asks in the chat, what is a feminist principle that you can share with girls and young women who may be experiencing barriers such as gender stereotypes, violence online, etc.? Jada?
Thank you. And yeah, I'd love to hear from the others as well, what their key ingredient is. So yeah, I really believe that it's solidarity and really supporting one another. And yeah, really listening to women when they speak up and hearing them and giving them space to talk about their experiences and, you know, share that in a safe and inclusive space for them. So yeah, that's, I feel like, a few little key ingredients there.
Pashtana, Anyelka, do you guys have anything to say to this?
Yeah, I agree with Jada, but I think that the empathy that, like women's, for example, we share in the history and we feel like a comfortable sharing our experience in this world. So I think that is gonna be the key when somebody is not judge you, just supporting you. That is like the biggest goal, to have the friends or the community supporting. That is amazing. Yeah.
I think my 2 cents would be it's very important for us to understand when is it time for us to talk and raise awareness for the person who's being bullied, for the person who's being persecuted, and for the person whose rights are being abused or taken away. And when is it our responsibility to make that space for that person to talk on their own. I think one thing we tend to forget as feminists is that, yes, we need to raise voice, but when is it time to take a step back? I have faced a lot of and I feel also sometimes like when I'm taking up that space, I really try to make sure that I am not doing that, but it takes a lot of time for us. So I think the most important part is sometimes when something is happening, let's say, let me give you an example of Afghanistan. There are feminists or people who could be bringing in Afghans to share their experiences, to talk about their rights being violated for the fact that they are in exile. I see all amazing feminists and feminist icons taking up that space, talking on that issue and making it about themselves because they need a new cause, you know? So for me, I know I sound very bad, but I don't want to sugarcoat this. Sometimes it's very important to take a step back, to understand that you have this privilege and you have to give it to others who might not have the same privilege. So I think for me, any person younger than me, any person who doesn't have access to the same opportunity, I would want to give them that access. I would want to make sure that they feel included and feel heard rather than just being a token, you know, because I'm talking on their behalf, because I feel important. So it's very important to keep that in mind. We always tend to forget that. But yeah, it's very important. Young girls, they need to look up to women who made spaces for them, you know, who made sure that there is a chair for them and they don't have to bring a chair to every table. That's the most important ingredient or key to any safe space, honestly.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think the community is such an important theme that we keep coming to here, and support and solidarity and all those things. I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. If anybody would like to share, raise your hand, put it in the chat. If not, I know I could ask questions to these 3 speakers all day. Okay, we do have a raised hand. Go ahead, Ambassador. Hi, I think you're on mute right now.
Okay, sorry.
There you go.
Pleasant good afternoon to the honorable head table. I am Ambassador Nicosi Phillips to Trinidad and Tobago Utilize. I'm very honored to be in this panel of discussion. Although I was late, I'm following up still. One of the things that I want to say is that I've always said it on all our meetings. We sit here and speak about women and women empowerment? How do we treat with gender and gender equality? How do we treat with young girls being abused, bullied, and this stuff? But one of my strongest things that I'm not getting across quite likely is that the information that we all are putting out, getting and receiving as an NGO in the Caribbean, especially Trinidad and Tobago, it's very difficult for us to pass the information along. One, being that we have a CSW coming up, and our NGO wants to be a part of the CSW again. We were accredited under one of the Trinidad and Tobago's group, and I made it there the last time, and it was very good because the information that was there and the knowledge that I've gained from it, I'm actually doing most of the projects that I've learned from South Africa, Pink Africa Foundation, some of the foundations that I've met in the NGOs in the US CSW, I'm bringing it here. But my problem and my question is, how do we hold the people accountable, or these NGOs that are coming to the CSW and they're not bringing back the information? Well, for me, I am holding them accountable by putting them on the radio, putting them on the TV, and calling out. But the message is not being brought across properly, because in our country, and I'm playing to by manners, it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to destroy one. That is what I was saying. Because sometimes when you discipline a child, they say, oh, you shouldn't be them, you shouldn't do this. But when you don't, and they are part of criminal activities, then you then say, oh, you should have did this. No.
I think we've lost your audio.
Sorry. Yes, I'm hoping that
just for the sake of
forward,
time, I'm going to ask the speakers to start answering your question about information sharing, just because at 1:25 I've got somebody else.
Nice, good.
Please, if any of our speakers want to jump in here.
Yeah, I'm on unmute. So I think that's an important part that we tend to forget when we go to the UN, or we go to all these big conferences, or the big conferences come to our country. We are in that space, so we forget that there's a lot of gatekeeping in opportunities, access to opportunities within the NGOs. There's a lot of gatekeeping towards information, towards accessing any of the data that you would need. So how do you counter that? Countering it by having more accountable framework within your own NGO, civil society. If you are a person who's within that sector, there are definitely other people who are also exhausted and frustrated with the same situation. There should be that framework put in place, or a coalition made that wants to ask questions, that wants to ask the questions from the people, but gatekeeping all of those things, access to information, access to opportunities, access to going to a conference. Sometimes, yes, it takes a village to do the same thing, but then at the same time, it takes all the industry to gatekeep all that information, because it needs the NGOs to continue. I do have a very skeptical view of the way our world functions. The more we are this way, the more the projects will be prolonged. So it's very important for you to ask as a citizen of that country, that region, that district, and have those questions. Yes, you can criticize them, but also have a framework, record whatever they do, and then make sure that it's put in somewhere in archives, people can access it. Because one thing I think is important is history never forgives, and people do know, once it keeps on coming up again and again, people do understand, oh, okay, this organization is shady, this doesn't work, maybe we need to change our ways, maybe we need to innovate, maybe we need to ask these people who have been working on this for a long time.
All right, I think that was our last question. Thank you to our speakers. Seriously, we really appreciate your time and your efforts and all of the work that you guys do. Thank you so much. I appreciate the conversation we had today. It was so awesome. And I'm going to pass it to Devin now for a little wrap up.
Thank you so much, Michaela, and all our speakers. This was a really great discussion. Thank you so much for your insight and for all the great questions we got as well. As you know, this is an ongoing series of events. So we will have our next event next Wednesday, same time, same place, at 12 p.m. Eastern time. The registration link is in the chat. And next week, our event will be organized by one of our WildIP champion delegates, Fernanda. We will also have interpretation in English and Spanish for that event as well. So keep an eye out for the save the date with the registration link for that. And we will see you next week. Bye, everyone.